My brother's fiancée tried to ban me from the wedding because I outshine her. Yesterday, my brother's fiancée told my entire family that I'm not welcome at their wedding because, and I quote, she can't have anyone there who might outshine the bride. I genuinely thought she was joking until she doubled down and said she was dead serious. The kicker? She wants me banned because I'm a professional dancer, and she's worried I'll steal attention or make her look bad if people see me at the wedding. Reddit, I wish I was making this up. Let me back up and explain the whole mess, because it gets so much worse. I'm Emma, 26F, and my brother Jake, 29M, is getting married to his fiancée Melissa, 27F, in 3 months. Jake and I have always been incredibly close. We're only 3 years apart, and we've been each other's biggest supporters through everything. When our parents went through a nasty divorce when I was 16, Jake basically became my protector and biggest advocate. He's the one who drove me to dance auditions, helped me move to New York when I got into a professional company, and has been my biggest cheerleader through my entire career. I should mention that I'm a professional ballet dancer with American Ballet Theatre. It's been my dream since I was 4 years old, and after years of training, sacrificing, and frankly, a lot of luck, I made it into one of the most prestigious ballet companies in the world. I'm not saying this to brag, it's just relevant to what happened. Jake met Melissa about 2 years ago through mutual friends. She seemed nice enough at first, though I'll admit I found her a bit intense. She works in marketing for a mid-sized company and is very focused on image and social media presence. Her Instagram is curated to perfection, and she's always talking about building her brand and maintaining her aesthetic. From the beginning, I noticed Melissa would make little comments about my career. Nothing outright nasty, but things like, oh, it must be nice to play dress up for a living, or I could never do something so performative. When I'd post pictures from performances or behind-the-scenes content, she'd make comments about how some people need so much attention, or how she preferred to keep her accomplishments private. I mostly ignored it because Jake seemed happy, and I figured she was just not familiar with the dance world. Plus, I'm used to people having misconceptions about what professional dancers actually do, the training, the athleticism, the artistry. It's not uncommon for people to dismiss it as just dancing around. Things started getting weirder about 6 months ago when they got engaged. Melissa immediately threw herself into wedding planning with an intensity that honestly concerned me. She had spreadsheets for everything, Pinterest boards that she'd spend hours perfecting, and she started talking about their wedding like it was going to be featured in Vogue or something. She also became increasingly strange around me. If I was at family dinners, she'd make comments about how I was so used to being the center of attention, or how it must be hard to blend into normal situations when you're used to being on stage. She'd also do this weird thing where she'd position herself strategically in photos to make sure she was the focal point, even at events that had nothing to do with her. The breaking point came at Jake's birthday dinner 3 weeks ago. Our whole family was there, parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins. It was at a nice restaurant, nothing fancy, just a family celebration. I had just come from a performance of Giselle, and since the restaurant was only a few blocks from Lincoln Center, I came straight from the theater. I was wearing a simple black dress and had my hair in a low bun, definitely dressed down from my stage makeup and costume, but I was still wearing false eyelashes because I hadn't had time to take them off properly. The moment I walked in, Melissa's entire demeanor changed. She got this look on her face like I'd personally insulted her. Throughout dinner, she kept making snide comments about how some people can't help but make everything about them, and how it's interesting when someone shows up to a family dinner looking like they're ready for a photo shoot. I was confused because I thought I looked pretty normal, but I didn't want to cause drama at Jake's birthday, so I just ignored her comments. The final straw came when my grandmother asked me about the performance, and I was telling her about the role I'd just danced. Melissa interrupted to say, "God, do we have to talk about Emma's job again? Some of us have other things going on in our lives." The table went silent. My grandmother, who is the sweetest woman alive and has never said an unkind word about anyone, looked genuinely shocked. Jake looked mortified and immediately told Melissa that was inappropriate. Melissa then said, I'm sorry, but I'm just tired of every family gathering becoming the Emma show. She walks in here looking like she's ready for the Met Gala, and suddenly everyone's asking about her performances and her career. What about the rest of us? I was so taken aback that I didn't even know how to respond. Jake jumped in and said, Melissa, that's completely out of line. Grandma asked Emma a question, and she was answering it. And she looks perfectly normal. Normal. Melissa laughed. She's wearing false eyelashes to a casual family dinner. She's clearly trying to draw attention to herself. At this point, I felt like I needed to say something. Melissa, I literally came straight from work. I didn't have time to take off my stage makeup completely. I'm sorry if that offended you somehow. It's not about being offended, she said. It's about being considerate of other people and not always needing to be the most beautiful person in the room. The entire table was staring at her. My mom looked like she wanted to crawl under the table, my dad looked angry, and Jake looked like he'd never seen Melissa before in his life. Jake immediately stood up and said, We're leaving. Now. As they were walking out, I heard Melissa say to him, I can't believe you're taking her side over mine. I was honestly so confused and hurt that I couldn't even finish my dinner. I went home and spent the rest of the night wondering if I had somehow done something wrong or if I was missing something. Jake called me the next morning to apologize profusely. He said Melissa had been stressed about wedding planning and that he'd talked to her about her behavior. He assured me that she didn't mean what she said and that she was just feeling insecure. I told him I appreciated the apology, but that I was really hurt by what happened. He promised it wouldn't happen again. Fast forward to yesterday. Jake called and asked if I could come to Sunday dinner at our parent house because he and Melissa had something important to discuss with the family. I assumed they wanted to talk about wedding details or maybe ask for help with something. I was wrong. We all sat down for dinner, me, Jake, Melissa, our parents, and our younger sister Lucy, 23F. Everything seemed normal at first. Melissa was actually being unusually friendly to me, which should have been a red flag. After we finished eating, Jake said, So, Melissa, and I wanted to talk to everyone about the wedding. Melissa immediately jumped in with this big smile and said, We've been thinking a lot about what kind of atmosphere we want to create for our special day, and we want it to be perfect. She went on about their vision and how they wanted the focus to be entirely on their love and commitment to each other. Standard wedding talk, nothing unusual. Then she said, which brings us to a difficult conversation we need to have. She looked directly at me and said, Emma, we've decided that it would be best if you didn't attend the wedding. I literally thought I'd misheard her. I'm sorry, what? We think it would be better for everyone if you weren't there. I looked at Jake, expecting him to jump in and clarify that this was some kind of misunderstanding. Instead, he was staring at his plate and looked like he wanted to disappear. I don't understand, I said. Why wouldn't I be at my brother's wedding? Melissa took a deep breath like she was about to deliver some profound wisdom. Look, I know this is hard to hear, but you have a very commanding presence. And as a professional performer, you're used to being the center of attention. I can't have anyone at my wedding who might outshine the bride. The room was dead silent. I looked around the table, and everyone was staring at Melissa like she'd lost her mind. You want to ban me from my brother's wedding because I'm a dancer? I asked. It's not about being a dancer specifically, she said. It's about the fact that you can't help but draw attention to yourself. Like at Jake's birthday dinner, you showed up looking like you were ready for a red carpet event. People naturally gravitate toward you, and that's not appropriate for someone else's wedding day. I was so shocked I couldn't speak. My mom found her voice first. Melissa, this is absolutely ridiculous. Emma is Jake's sister. Of course, she's going to be at the wedding. Actually, Melissa said, it's not ridiculous. It's pretty common for brides to have input on the guest list, and I'm not comfortable having someone there who I know will take attention away from me. My dad, who rarely gets involved in family drama, spoke up. What exactly do you think Emma is going to do? Dance down the aisle? Perform Swan Lake during your first dance? That's not the point, Melissa said. The point is that she's naturally very striking, and she's used to being performing and being looked at. I can't compete with that on my wedding day. Lucy, bless her heart, said, "So you want to ban Emma for being pretty and talented? That's insane." Melissa got defensive. It's not about being pretty. It's about being considerate. Some people know how to blend in at appropriate times, and some people always need to be the star of the show. I finally found my voice. "Melissa, I have literally never done anything at a family event to draw attention to myself. I don't perform at family gatherings. I don't wear costumes or talk exclusively about dance. I just exist as myself." "But that's the problem," she said. "Even when you're not trying, you still draw attention. People ask about your career, they want to take pictures with you, they're interested in your life. I can't have that kind of energy at my wedding." I looked at Jake, who still hadn't said a word. "Jake, are you going to say something?" He finally looked up and said, very quietly, "Maybe it would be easier for everyone if you just didn't come." I felt like I'd been slapped. My own brother was agreeing to ban me from his wedding because his fiancée was threatened by my existence. Easier for who? I asked. For me and Melissa. We just want one day that's about us. And you think I would somehow make your wedding day about me? Not intentionally, he said. But Melissa has a point about you naturally drawing attention. I stood up from the table. I need to leave before I say something I'll regret. As I was grabbing my purse, Melissa called after me. "Emma, I hope you can understand that this isn't personal. I just need to protect my special day." I turned around and looked at her. "Melissa, banning your future sister-in-law from your wedding because you're insecure is literally the definition of personal." I left without saying goodbye to anyone. I've been up all night thinking about this, and I'm genuinely questioning my own sanity. Am I somehow unconsciously attention-seeking? Do I really have some kind of overwhelming presence that makes other people uncomfortable? I called my best friend Maya, who's known me since college, and told her what happened. She was speechless for a full minute, then said, "Emma, that's the most insane thing I've ever heard. You're literally one of the most humble people I know, and you go out of your way to not talk about work at social events." But now I'm second-guessing everything. Maybe I do unconsciously seek attention? Maybe I am too much in social situations? This morning, my mom called me crying. She said she spent all night arguing with my dad about what to do. She wants to boycott the wedding if I'm not invited, but she's also terrified of losing Jake. Lucy texted me saying she's done with Melissa's crazy bullshit and that she's not going to the wedding either if I'm not welcome. Jake hasn't contacted me at all. I don't know what to do here. Part of me wants to just accept that I'm not invited and avoid the drama. But another part of me is hurt and angry that my brother is allowing his fiancée to exclude me from one of the most important days of his life. Am I overreacting? Should I just graciously bow out to keep the peace? Or is this as insane as it feels? I keep wondering if there's something I'm missing or if I've somehow been blind to my own behavior. But I genuinely can't think of a single instance where I've tried to steal attention at a family event. The worst part is that I actually like dancing at weddings, not performing, just regular dancing like everyone else. I was looking forward to celebrating with my brother and dancing badly to top 40 hits like everyone else at the reception. Edit. Some people have asked what my professional dance career actually looks like day to day, since Melissa seems to think I'm constantly performing in regular life. I wake up at 6 a.m. for company class, which is like a daily training session for the whole company. Then we have rehearsals from about 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., with breaks for lunch and physical therapy as needed. Evenings are either more rehearsals or performances, depending on the season. When I'm not at the theater, I'm usually in workout clothes or very casual clothing. I save my energy for actual performances, not for performing in daily life. My offstage wardrobe consists mostly of leggings, oversized sweaters, and sneakers. I think Melissa has this image of me as someone who's constantly on and seeking attention, but the reality is that most professional dancers are pretty low-key in their personal lives because we expend so much physical and emotional energy in our work. Edit 2. I've gotten some comments asking if there's more history between Melissa and me that might explain her behavior. I've been thinking about this, and there are a few incidents I didn't include in the original post. About a year ago, we were all at a family barbecue, and my uncle's friend asked me about dance. We talked for maybe 5 minutes about what it's like to perform at Lincoln Center. Later, Melissa told Jake that I had been holding court and showing off by talking about my career. Last Christmas, my grandmother gave me a necklace that had belonged to my great-grandmother. It wasn't expensive or flashy, just sentimental. Melissa later commented to my mom that it was interesting how I always seemed to get special attention from family members. A few months ago, Jake posted a photo on Instagram of him and me at a coffee shop with the caption, "Coffee with my talented sister before her show tonight." Melissa commented, "Some of us have to work regular jobs faced with tears of joy," which felt passive-aggressive. At Easter dinner, I mentioned that I was excited about being cast in a principal role for an upcoming ballet. Melissa said, "Must be nice to get paid to play dress up, while some of us are building real careers." Looking back, I think Melissa has been building up resentment about my career for a while, and this wedding band is just the culmination of that. Edit 3. Jake finally called me. The conversation didn't go well. He started by saying that he's torn and that he never meant for this to become such a big deal. He said Melissa has been crying since yesterday and feels like the whole family is ganging up on her. I told him that his fiancée literally tried to ban me from his wedding, and he said, "She's just stressed about the wedding being perfect." Jake, do you hear yourself? You're defending someone who wants to exclude your sister from your wedding because she thinks I'm too pretty to be in the same room as her. "It's not about being pretty," he said. "It's about she just wants to feel special on her wedding day. And she can't feel special if I'm there." Long pause. Then, "You have to understand, Emma. You've always been the star of the family. You're successful. You're talented. Everyone's always asking about your career. Melissa feels like she can't compete with that." I was so frustrated. "Jake, I don't want anyone to compete with me. I want to celebrate your marriage and dance badly to Sweet Caroline with everyone else." "But that's the thing," he said. "Even when you're trying to blend in, you still stand out. Like at my birthday dinner. You didn't mean to upstage anyone, but you walked in looking like a model and everyone immediately started paying attention to you. I was wearing a black dress and had my hair in a bun. How is that upstaging anyone? You were wearing false eyelashes, Emma." "Because I came straight from work. Should I have canceled performing Giselle so I could go home and wash my face before your birthday dinner?" He was quiet for a moment. Then, "Maybe it would have been more considerate, yeah." I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You think I should have skipped work to make sure I didn't accidentally look too nice at your birthday dinner?" I think maybe sometimes you could be more aware of how your presence affects other people. That's when I realized that this wasn't just about Melissa. Jake actually agrees with her on some level. He actually thinks I'm somehow inconsiderate or attention-seeking just by existing as myself. So, what do you want me to do, Jake? Quit my job? Dress down when I'm around your fiancé? Pretend to be less successful so she feels better about herself? I just want you to understand where she's coming from. I understand where she's coming from. She's insecure, and instead of dealing with that like an adult, she wants to ban me from your wedding. And you're letting her." The conversation ended with him saying he needs time to figure out how to handle this situation, and that he hopes I can be patient while they work through this. I told him there's nothing to work through. Either I'm welcome at his wedding or I'm not, and if I'm not, then we have a much bigger problem than his fiancé's insecurity. Edit 4. My parents just called me together. They conference called me, which they only do for serious family meetings. They've decided they're not going to Jake's wedding if I'm not invited. My mom was crying and said she never thought she'd have to choose between her children, but that what Melissa is demanding is completely unacceptable. My dad was angrier than I've ever heard him. He said Jake called him this morning trying to get them to talk sense into me and convince me to voluntarily bow out of the wedding to keep the peace. Dad told Jake that was absolutely not happening and that if he wants to marry someone who would exclude his own sister from their wedding, then he's made his choice. Lucy also called to tell me she's officially not going to the wedding. She said she told Jake that she's not celebrating a marriage that starts with his fiancée trying to exclude family members she sees as threats. So now it's looking like Jake's wedding might have no family members from his side in attendance except for maybe our grandparents, who don't fully understand what's happening. I feel terrible that this has spiraled into such a huge family rift, but I also don't know what else I could have done differently. I didn't ask my family to boycott the wedding. They made that decision on their own because they think what Melissa is doing is wrong. Edit 5. I got a text from Melissa about an hour ago. Here it is, word for word. Emma, I hope you're happy that you've destroyed Jake's wedding and torn apart his family. All I wanted was one perfect day to celebrate my marriage, and you couldn't even give me that. You had to make everything about you and turn everyone against me. This is exactly the kind of attention-seeking behavior I was trying to avoid at my wedding. Jake is devastated that his family is choosing you over his happiness. I hope it was worth it. I screenshotted it and sent it to my mom, who called immediately and was furious. She said, "That girl has some nerve blaming you for the consequences of her own actions." I haven't responded to Melissa's text, and I don't plan to. There's literally nothing I can say that won't be twisted into more evidence of my supposed attention-seeking behavior. Edit 6. Jake just showed up at my apartment unannounced. We had the most surreal conversation I've ever had with him. He looked exhausted and said he's been up all night trying to figure out how to fix this situation. He said Melissa is beside herself that the whole family is against her, and she's talking about calling off the wedding entirely. Maybe that would be for the best, I said. He looked at me like I'd slapped him. How can you say that? Jake, do you want to marry someone who tried to ban your sister from your wedding because she's threatened by my existence? She's not threatened by your existence, he said. She's had to work really hard for everything in her life, and you make everything look effortless. You think being a professional ballet dancer is effortless? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? He sat down and put his head in his hands. I don't know, Emma. I love her, but this whole situation has gotten so out of control. She keeps saying that if I don't support her on this, it means I don't prioritize our relationship. And what do you think? I think I'm screwed either way. If I invite you, she'll be miserable at our wedding. If I don't invite you, I lose my whole family. I sat down next to him. Jake, do you realize what you just said? You're talking about inviting me like I'm some random acquaintance, not your sister who has been there for you through everything. You have been there for me, he said quietly. You've been the best sister I could ask for. Then why are you even considering choosing her over me?
He was quiet for a long time.
Then, because I love her and I don't want to lose her. But you're okay with losing me?
No.
God, no. I never wanted this to be an either-or situation. But it is, Jake. Melissa made it an either-or situation when she demanded that I be banned from your wedding. We talked for another hour, and by the end of it, he seemed to realize how insane this whole situation has become. He said he's going to talk to Melissa and try to make her understand that excluding me is not an option. I told him I appreciated that, but I also told him that even if Melissa backs down now, I'm not sure I can forget that she tried to ban me in the first place. And I'm definitely not sure I can forget that he initially went along with it. He left looking defeated, and honestly, I feel terrible for him. But I also feel like this situation has revealed some fundamental issues in his relationship that go way beyond wedding guest lists.